We're gonna do a song that you never heard before. The volume.
Here they come and get wicked. Here we go again.
It's Kennedy and my brother from another mother.
What's going on, bro? Hey, I just saw that trade, and I see that Terrence Mann
Yeah.
is let's see. Terrence Mann's going to the Nets. I like
Kind
Terrence
of a
Mann.
solid look for him. Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. I just want him to keep getting looks.
Yeah. I'm not mad at it for him, right?
Mhm.
So on the trade, it was Boston, Atlanta, Brooklyn. So Porzingis and a second round pick is going to the Hawks, Terrence Mann, and Atlanta's number 22 pick is going to the Nets, and then George Niang and a second rounder is going to the Celtics. I listen. This is one of these things that is kind of interesting though, bro, because I think that one of the things that is interesting about this particular trade is because it's like this is what happens when you go all in for a championship, right?
Mhm.
And you sign all the guys and it look good, and you think that new second apron takes effect. And so then it's like, well, it's cool when you're winning, but the minute you don't win, you kind of got to break up the guys. And so that's tough when you have two guys that are basically making, close to $1 billion in salary though, bro. So I guess you got to dump everybody else though. So is this the end of that Celtics run?
With Tatum being down, this is really about to really see if Jaylen Brown is worth it.
Mm.
This is gonna show what type of metal he got. And then they turned it because they traded Drew Holiday earlier too.
They traded
So
Drew Holiday early, and they got Anthony Simons, who I particularly like. He don't get as much shine, and he had a horrible dunk contest. But I think that most people really don't know a whole lot about him, though.
yeah, true. But I mean, we've seen him because we watch the West a lot. It's gonna give that youthfulness to them, which they need. And nothing against Drew Holiday. He's an NBA champion, and he definitely is a key guy around the league. Like you ask anybody, they probably would say, "Yo, Drew is that guy." So it just sucks for him to have to go to, maybe he gets a buyout or something and he can still try to go to a contender, because I'm sure
He
he
get a
don't.
lot. He's owed a lot of money. He's owed like 70-some million dollars over the next 2 years. And for him, I don't think that this year is the buyout. Maybe after next year when you got a smaller amount and you say, all right, well, I'm owed 35 again. If y'all can hit me off with 30, I'll be out of here or something like that, though. So
Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm just looking at to give him an opportunity to try to go to a contender, because I know he ain't got but a few years left, is what I'm saying. So, however,
that is trash. That is trash, though, bro. Absolute trash. And I understand that both teams' perspective, right?
Mhm.
That you gotta get out of that second apron somehow. I get it. But when you do so at the expense of sending guys who you wouldn't have won the championship without them to teams that are almost cellar dwellers, that's like when you have to trade somebody to Detroit. It used to be like, oh man, the Hornets, you know what I'm saying? Portland, you know what I'm saying? Recently,
Utah is
it's
is
horrible
one
for
right now.
Utah is one, and Utah is building. I think that the Utah, they got a bunch of young guys out there, but man, I think that it's something to be said about getting traded to damn Portland. Now he's a West Coast guy, so maybe it's not as big of a deal, but bruh,
Yeah, but he coming. He,
organizationally though,
he
it ain't
coming to
going to
he
the
coming to that
Warriors.
stack West, bro.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what to say about that though, man. God, dog.
Mm-mm.
Who else? Let's get the music on. We can talk about these other trades before we talk about the real NBA topics here.
All right.
Listen, if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to the Slash Brothers YouTube and Facebook page, as well as our new TikTok page. We are live on both platforms at the same time. Whenever you click on the notification, you click on the bell, you get the heads up whenever your boys is doing a thing. Ace Kennedy. So, did you also see that CJ McCollum was recently traded
Did not
to
see
the
it.
other purgatory?
Where'd he go?
That boy went to the Washington Wizards.
Dang.
So they did CJ McCollum. They did CJ McCollum basically for Jordan Poole and a
Okay.
couple of other, guys. I think, to be honest with you, man, you are for the main players. I think the only thing that you're doing, if you're the Wizards, if you thought, all right, you know what, Jordan Poole ain't what we thought he was going to be,
Mhm.
right? And you just want to be shaking some things up, like the Wizards have been doing since John Wall left, right? I guess it makes sense. I mean, you're going to get about the same points. You just get a different kind of leadership. I
Mhm.
think that with CJ McCollum being like involved with the Players Association, I think you get a different level of professionalism. He's an older and more seasoned player, but he's going to give you points wise about the same that Jordan Poole was giving you, maybe even a little less at this point in his career. But I hate that for him as well, bro. I
Yeah.
hate that at this stage of his career that he has to go to the Wizards, though, bro.
Right. The
What-
big trade. Let's talk about the big trade. The big trade. Kevin Durant goes to the Houston Rockets for Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green. And of course, they get a first round pick and 2 second round picks. So it's a good situation for Phoenix. And it's kind of it's a great situation for both. Like, I know people think that it was probably a low ball bid, but at the same time, Phoenix was backed in the corner because, the other piece of this trade is understanding that Kevin Durant only has 1 year left on his contract. So he has to decide whether or not he's going to sign long term with whatever team wants him, because it's like, I ain't giving up no haul to get you. And then you out right after that, especially with KD's history of leaving teams. People wasn't trying to take that. Now, but we got several conversations based upon this trade. First of all, is he going to be the number 2 in Houston? Number 2, is Jalen Green going to stay in Phoenix? Number 3, who won the trade? Would you have included Dylan Brooks in this, or would you have wanted Jabari Smith? Like, there's so many conversations based upon this trade. KD was at a Fanatics convention when the news dropped, and of course they asked him, did he know about it? He was like, listen, I'm at a position in my career where I get to dictate where I go. He said it sucks to have your career in the hands of somebody else to where they decide where you go. He said, and I got to have a hand in it. He said, I gave them a list of teams, and Houston is one of the destinations I wanted to go to. So he's pretty happy with it.
I thought you was about to say he said he didn't know. I was about to say, boy, if you
No,
don't get out
no,
my face playing,
no, he
I
was on.
respect that.
Yeah.
I do respect. Listen, this is my thing. I respect that at this age, and this point of his career, there are certain guys who have been the faces of the league that are still playing at a very high level. Like,
Yeah.
I think that Steph should never be forced out the door. Steph should retire whenever he's ready to retire. And I think that Steph should have the option, if he wants to get traded, if he would do so. And I think that he should be the one that at this juncture decide if he's going to always be a Warrior. I think that that's the least that you can do. But I also think that for like a LeBron James at this point, though, man, just including LeBron James and sending LeBron to Detroit, right? That would just be like, really, like, you better than that, though. And I think that you're right with Kevin Durant at this point of his career. If he's already saying, hey, if you guys are thinking about trading me because you don't know whether or not I'm going to go ahead and re-sign or whatnot, which tells me that he wasn't likely going to go ahead and re-sign with them, right? Then I think that, yeah, that you don't want to get the OKC treatment and just be like, well, we kind of asked out of this generational player. So I think that from that perspective, I totally get it. But you ask, who's gonna be the number one now? And this is
Hold on,
where
hold on. Before you get into that, you said the OKC treatment is actually the Raptors treatment with Kawhi. Because they
no, the
they went all
Raptors,
in on Kawhi.
they went all
They
in
went
on
all in on,
Kawhi.
and then he
Yep,
left
they
after
went
that.
in all in on, and then he left after that, and they gave up their best, their absolute best player to get him all for one ring. And listen, and don't get me wrong, championships are hard to win. It's hard to get one. So if that's what it takes, I suppose that you just got to go ahead and shoot the guy. I'm not mad at the Raptors. What I am mad at, though, I'm more mad. I would be more mad at the KD trade, or
Mm-hmm.
not trading free agent signing versus the Raptors. And here's the reason why. Because I think that when you picked up the Raptors, you knew that it was a possibility and you just took him in thinking I'm going to roll with it. I don't think that anybody had ever seen what Kevin Durant did, and that's where I think that it was different, bro. So from that regards, I'm going to still stick with saying get nobody wants to get KD. And so for the Suns, you already saw that KD got KD behavior. So I'm not mad at them. So I think that, but when you ask, well, let's just talk about this. You said who won the trade? I think that in this scenario, I think I'm going to tell you the only loser in the whole trade is Devin Booker, right? Because at the end of the day, you was losing before KD got there. Now you got KD and you got this elevated player, and I think that Jalen Green technically is a downgrade at this point of his career than Kevin Durant. And who knows, maybe Jalen Green will turn into this phenomenal whatever player. But I think that he's in what year 4 now, and Devin Booker is probably like a year 7, 8 player. And I think that at this point, though, man, I think that he wants to contend for championships. And I just don't think that the team that he's on is anywhere closer to being constructed to a championship team than they did when they had KD. So, um, and they were so injured that you never really got a chance to really tell what it looked like, though, man. So I don't know if there's a winner. I think that the biggest loser is Devin Booker, though.
I don't think that Devin Booker is a loser in this because here's the thing. He right now, okay, the Suns were in turmoil. Forget it. They were in turmoil. They fired their head coach again. They don't have any picks for the future. So they had to make moves. And you have a Bradley Beal who is deciding not to let go of his no trade. So the only person you could move was KD. And it was the writing was on the wall because they were trying to trade KD last year. So the Suns basically let KD know, nah, bro, you out of here. So KD was like, all right, if we're going to do it, just do it in the summer. I'm not moving in the middle of the year. So, and here's the thing, Devin Booker, still, he could have asked out. So if he's staying, go ahead.
Do you think he'll ask out now?
I don't, because he was involved in the coach. He's involved in picking the coach. They are basically showing their hand all the way around, basically saying like, no, this is your team. We're going to build around you. And he's involved in the coaching decision. This is what's being reported. Also, what's also being reported, we don't know if Jalen Green is staying with the Suns because even before the trade went through, they said if they got him that they would be exploring options to see what's up with him. So this could be a wake-up call for Jalen Green because it's like, bro, somebody felt like that you wasn't that guy.
Listen, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. Is Devin Booker really that much of an upgrade over Jalen Green?
I mean, at this point, Devin Booker ain't won nothing. So
right. So that's my point. Like I know that he's homegrown to them.
right.
Right. So he is what Russell was to OKC.
Right.
But I'm just also saying that even as a player, right? I mean, he's giving you about 26 a game.
Yeah.
Jalen Green was giving you like 22, 23.
He just wasn't showing up in the playoffs.
It just what, but has Devin Booker always showed up in the playoffs?
No, that's why I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you. Devin Booker hasn't won anything. So at this point, if they decided to get rid of him, I'm okay with that too. I'm just saying at this point, but here's the thing: they have an owner though who is very aggressive, and that's the reason why they were out of picks, which is why they were in the situation where they had to take what they could get with the KD trade because they didn't have anything. Like you can't even say that getting the second round picks is a low thing when you ain't have no picks. So
imagine you trading Devin Booker and you can't get rid of Bradley Beal because now you look just like the Washington Wizards all over again, bro.
Right. And then the fact that that's the thing. He was being aggressive, and this is the situation that you in. So I don't know what they're gonna do with Jalen Green. Either way, though, I'm just saying for him to be traded, and if he were to get traded yet again before even making it to Phoenix, there's gotta be a wake-up call to him, like, bro, these dudes do not think you the guy, bro. Because
let me ask you this though.
Mhm.
Okay. What do you do with Bradley Beal? I know you got to play him, but listen, if the Wizards sent John Wall home because they said, listen, John, we don't see you playing in the future. So we don't even want to have you suiting on up. We rebuilding, right? And you don't fit into that picture. And they were paying him, but they had him sitting home, right? And I know that Brad Beal's contract is a no trade. I think that he's getting closer toward the end of his contract, right? So could you see a scenario where the Suns just be like, all right, bro. Well, the only way we can force you out of your no trade clause is to not play you. We'll continue to pay you, and at some point, somebody in the game of chicken has to veer off, right? And so at that point, I think that could you see a scenario where they're forcing him to invoke his no trade clause, bro?
I don't think so, man. I think at this point, you got him. You got to just play him. And you giving him what he asked for, because again, the Phoenix Suns are basically stating that they are not in the position of a rebuild right now. They are trying to go for it. So at this point, you got him, and if he ain't going nowhere, you got to play him.
I just thought about something.
What's up?
I just thought about something. Okay. I just thought about something. Hear me out when I say this.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay, so on the what was the Loki? On Loki, what's the guy? The NVA? Oh, I think it was the NVA.
TVA.
The people,
Yeah, TVA.
TVA. Okay, they were the people who were in control of the timelines,
Mhm.
right? And once in a while, you'll have a variant that will cause a ripple in the timeline, and the timeline tries to correct itself. Okay, here's what I just thought about. Okay, what if Kevin Durant is the variant? Like, what if Kevin Durant was not supposed to go? It wasn't in the timeline's plan for Kevin Durant to go to the Warriors. And that could mean either one or two things. He stays and win the championship with OKC, or he, like Russ, is another player who goes down in history possibly as another all-time great player who doesn't win a championship. But what if that was Kevin Durant's destination? And all of these trades and the subsequent injuries is the timeline correcting itself, because if Kevin Durant hasn't won a playoff series since he's left the Warriors, and he's been traded, he would be traded 2 times. He's played on 3 different teams, and even on all those teams, he's had nowhere near the team success that he had previously with the Warriors or OKC. What if this is the timeline of Kevin Durant correcting himself? Because do you see him being with the Rockets, winning the championship? Is that going to make them better than OKC? Is that going to put them over beating the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, all those other teams though? Does that make them the favorite, right?
It does put them in the conversation as a favorite because you still got Sengun, you still got Van Vliet, you still have I mean, you pretty much they were the number 2 team in the West, and they just did not have the scoring to put Golden State out of their misery. So you bring a Kevin Durant, you just basically swapping, in my opinion, you swapping Kevin Durant for Jalen Green. Dillon Brooks, yeah, he's the enforcer type, and I can play
He was
defense.
all defense. He was all defense. That's not a small thing.
I know it's not a small thing. It's no
He
shade.
was like Derek Caruso.
He was. But at the same time, if you're saying that the guy behind him also plays great defense and it's his time, I'm okay with that too. And again, if it's like, are we holding on to him for that, or do we want Kevin Durant? Then let's get Kevin Durant.
I get it. But this is my thing. What if Kevin Durant's NBA legacy was all about just the score? Like if it wasn't supposed to include championships.
Mhm.
And now this is the timeline getting back to what it probably should have been, where Kevin Durant doesn't win a ring, though, bro.
Yeah.
I don't think, listen, winning a championship is hard, right? And there's a reason why, like even these last, they talk about, I've been hearing it all day long, that 7 years now, 7 different champions. All right, it's hard to win multiple championships, let alone just one championship, right? And so when you have a team like OKC where you're getting the first one, you had the Pacers getting close to possibly winning their first one. It's just like, all right, well, now Kevin Durant got these rings, right? And everybody questions the rings. Everybody always talks about the rings because he was the variant in the timeline, though, man. So it feels like the timeline is fixing that, though, bro. With Kevin Durant, like he's gonna still give you the same numbers. And in fact, I don't think that Kevin Durant's ever been any more efficient, right? He's came off the injury and he's just as good, if not better, than he ever was, though, right?
Mhm.
But the timeline is what it is, and I just wonder if it was really the true destiny for Kevin Durant to have not won a ring. That not be he was supposed to be a Charles Barkley, a Patrick Ewing, all the guys who were great NBA Hall of Fame players, but just not win a ring though.
What made him choose Houston over Minnesota?
I think that the reason why he chose Houston over Minnesota is the structure, right? Because Minnesota is clearly led by Anthony Edwards and they follow where he goes. And I think that Houston's direction and identity is based off of their head coach. And again, it requires him to not be a leader because their coach is their leader, right? And I
Mhm.
think that while Van Vliet and some of those other guys are guys that they may call for leadership, the identity and the leader of theirs is the coach. And I think that it's his way of just coming out there and just hooping, though, bro.
Um, I like that it's a reunion with him and Steven Adams.
But still, that
No, I'm
was
just
so
saying
long ago.
it was so long ago, but I'm still glad that they got their reunion. It's gonna be dope. I still got love for Steven Adams, bro. Anybody that's kind of come through OKC, they get the stamp, bro. Like you still family even when you leave, because it's like people don't ever have nothing bad to say. There's only one person that had something bad to say about OKC, and that was Reggie Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can kind of understand his gripe. He was like, I want to be a starter. And he was playing behind Russ. So I'm not that mad at that.
Yeah, but
Here's
that's
what I do wonder.
mhm.
Here's what I do wonder. Could you see a possibility of Russ and KD reuniting in Houston?
I mean, I could, but that's the thing. I haven't heard any conversations about where Russ is going. Only one I've heard Golden State and I've heard Miami. So, but I mean, very small talks, nothing like the smoke, there's fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know where Russ is going. Or maybe, you know, he declines his option and Denver re-signs him for something. Like, I don't know.
I think he's already declined his option. So
He
he's
did.
gonna be a free agent. Yeah. So I think that Russ stays on the West Coast or at least in the Western Conference though, bro. And I think that if I'm him, if I'm Russ, it's probably Golden State for me or the Nuggets. I try to re up with the Nuggets or Golden State. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's what I'm saying. Maybe the Nuggets bring him back because I don't know what they're, unless Trey Young can get out to Denver somehow.
I think that Trey Young. So you know what? Here's what I think is crazy. I think if Trey Young doesn't listen, if Trey Young played with Joker, and this is gonna sound crazy when I say this, but I think that Trey Young would lead the league in scoring, bro. I think Trey Young playing with Joker would probably average about 35 a game, bro. And the reason why I say that is because he averaged about 28 a game and then still gave you 10 assists. And if he didn't necessarily have to be a playmaker or facilitator, because that's Joker's role, and he gave you like 5 assists, even as the point guard, and he doesn't have to bring the ball up the court and anything like that necessarily, though, bro. I think that Trey Young can average about 35, maybe 36, because now instead of him passing it off, I think that that would give him more shots that wouldn't necessarily be forced shots. It would be the touches that he would look to pass on. Now, I think that he would be more of the aggressor. I think that, and then I don't think the Joker's numbers would change. His impact wouldn't change. But I think that if you had lined him up, I think Trey Young would lead the league in scoring, bro.
Okay. Anything else we going to get off of this KD trade?
I think that now here's the thing about it. You ask this: This
Mhm.
KD now is he the number one? He's finally the number one option.
Uh, I mean, you got Van Vliet over there who is also a champion. Uh, and he seems to be a vocal leader.
Yep.
So I still say no.
I think that it makes this is the scenario I think. I think that it makes him the best player, but not the leader. I
Yeah.
think that it does make him the number one option, but I don't think that it makes him the leader of the team. I think that I'm with you. I think that the leader is Ime and Van Fleet, but I think that it makes KD the best player, though, bro.
Yeah, he becomes the face. Like when they're showing graphics of Houston, it's gonna be KD.
I agree. Now, here's the thing about it. I do think, well, you know what? I'm looking to see the progression of Amen Thompson because
Mhm.
I like him a lot, and I think that what I'd be curious to see is I think that I would expect to see a jump for him to go up to about 18 to 19 points a game. And the reason why I say that is that because I think that KD is so efficient of a scorer that it's not going to take him very much to get his, 27, 28 points. And I think that it would allow for Amen Thompson to go ahead and step on up on the offensive side though, bro. I think he's definitely become one of my 5 favorite guys in the league, though, bro.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's
Let's
stop
get to
burying.
these Thunderboards. Let's get to
I'm
these
about to say, let's
Thunderboards, man.
stop
I
burying
can't
this
wait.
Thunder League, bro. The OKC Thunder have finally accomplished what most people. Well, I don't know if most people really thought it was gonna come true, but either way, we are the 2024-25 NBA champions.
Hey,
In
by show of hands, raise your hand if your team just won the championship.
That's right. That's right. OKC, man. Hey, we had the parade out here today. It was live in Oklahoma City, bro. Everybody was either tuned in or was out there. And man, it was deep. It was deep, man. And the players did not disappoint, bro. They got off the bus. They was in the crowds. They was carrying the trophy around, letting everybody touch it. They was kissing babies. They was grabbing kids. Like they was spraying champagne. Like they did their thing. And it started off with Aaron Wiggins and his fiery promo that he did. If he was a WWE guy, he did a promo as a heel. I mean, as a baby face and tow the house down, bro. He tore it down. And I'm gonna tell you, bro, them boys got their money's worth today. The city did well, especially not ever being prepared to do something like this and for them to throw it together as quickly as they did. and for it to go off with such a success, I didn't hear of anybody acting out, especially with all those people around. There was a couple of victims of heat stroke and different heat related activities. Some people that I knew personally ended up in the hospital. But overall, incredible event. People that went there were incredibly satisfied, and it seemed to go off, like I said, without a hitch. So salute to the city, salute to the Thunder themselves, the organization, the entire organization and the success, and from the person who scans your ticket all the way to Clay Bennett, man, world-class organization. We are NBA champions, including the fans, and we're gonna celebrate this one because there was so many people that doubted, and even when we got the trophy, there's still people that don't think the best team won.
Why is that in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, we're young. Number two, unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton went down with an injury, so we didn't really get to see him play in a game 7. There's a meme floating around on social media that shows Steph Curry getting hurt. It shows Tatum getting hurt. It shows Dame Lillard getting hurt. It shows Halliburton getting hurt. It's showing all these stars getting hurt that led to why the Thunder were the ones to win the championship, as though we didn't have 68 wins and had the best record in the NBA. And this year, more than any year, it really showed why it was important to do well in the regular season and having home court advantage. This year alone showed why that's important. Because I know a lot of time you'll see or hear LeBron like, I'm saving myself until the playoffs and then we're gonna do this whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. But this year showed why home court advantage was important, because you playing on the floor with Loud City is damn near impossible to win in Oklahoma. Yes, Denver did win a buzzer beater in game 1 against them, and yes, the Pacers did win game 1, almost a buzzer beater there too. But at the same time, for the most part, you're not winning in Oklahoma, bro. But yeah, Shea was the regular season NBA MVP. He was the Western Conference NBA MVP. He was the Finals MVP, the scoring champ. I mean, the list goes on for this guy. And
one thing he didn't do was win the All-Star game MVP.
Right. And he didn't win a defensive thing like
Player there, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, bro, they still no respect for this team. And I'm not gonna lie, it motivates the Thunder because again, that was part of Wiggins' speech, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it doesn't matter, bro. At the end of the day, you still got to call us champs. I don't care what list you try to say, because this for Shea alone, the season that he had, storybook. To have the best record in the NBA and to then win it all and win all the awards in the process. And he wasn't humble Shea today. Like he was out here, bro. Like he was running around with his shirt off. He had the trophy, bro. He was grabbing the Thunder flag, running around. Like he was they were being some big kids, bro. It was so dope. So dope.
I think the boy Rocky the Real was out there for the parade. He sent me a picture of Shea out there in the streets with the trophy though. So that's hard though, bro. Yeah. Listen, you know what's crazy to me, man? This is the point. This is the thing I think that is just. This is one thing that I think that's still very unbelievable for me, right? Because you think about it though, bro. In my sports fan lifetime, right? I'm a diehard Saints fan. I'm a diehard Texas Longhorn fan. And in the NBA, I've always liked players more than I've liked teams, except for when it came to OKC. Not loosely root for the Hawks, but definitely more so OKC more than any other team, though, right? But I think that the part that makes this one very, very incredible for me is that it feels almost like how I think fans were when you were like a Kansas City Chiefs fan when some people went their whole lifetime, they knew that they won one before, but there was like their grandparents' teams or whatever. And I think that to finally have one of the teams that you're rooting for, that you actively have a dog in the race, win it though, bro. It's tough because think I'm a Saints fan. I've seen the Saints win one and they haven't been close to being back. I think in our lifetime, we saw the Longhorns win one and we got close a couple of times, but we still just won the one in our adult life, though, right? And so I think to add this one to it, though, bro, it's very like you savor the moment just because I think that not just on how hard it is to win championships, but I'm just talking about just to be a fan of that team when they win the champion. That's your team. I think that those moments aren't like uh the Celtics back in the 70s when they were winning every single time, or it isn't, you're far removed from like the Bulls and the Lakers squads that were winning back to back to back. So I think that that's one thing that's real dope, first and foremost, though, bro. But I think that the part that is crazy to me is that I do believe I'm like I'm the list guy, so I can respect the conversations about when you're saying, well, what does this team rank, right, amongst whatever, however you want to do it. But to kind of be like, oh, it's an asterisk win because they didn't want it. Nah, miss me with that though.
Well, it's deeper for me. Not saying it's deeper than you, but I'm saying it's deep for me because I was rooting for this team when we weren't winning. We went through the KD, the Russell, the Harden, them all leaving, the Paul George, the Carmelo Anthony's, the Pokus, the Darius Baisleys, the Kyle Zigglers. Like we went through all of the phases and faces of the Thunder to get back to this moment of a team that supported and wrapped their arms around a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from a Paul George trade. So we, at the end of the day, everybody should be thanking PG, basically.
Man, listen, PG has probably been part of two of the worst deals in the history of the NBA. PG has been part of one of the worst contract signings. This one that he did with Philly, and then this trade to the Clippers because they traded him and paid him more. And then still after this got the not the Thunder dynasty, but that was the kickstart right to it though, man. So I think the part that I don't think that the thing that makes me mad though, right, is that you think this was two small market teams, so people were going to talk about all the NBA ratings, and I can't stand when people just have this assumption that when the Lakers are good, or when the Celtics are good, or when the Knicks are good, it's good for the NBA. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't particularly care about if those teams are good. It's the players. If you have a star player out there, people are going to watch it, though, man. If you're a basketball fan, you're going to watch it. But I think that the part that I appreciate is that if you had something to say about teams back when they were trying to build super teams, right, to win championships, right, and you had something to say about that, then you should appreciate this team as constructed even more. Because I mean, you think most of the players on the Thunder are homegrown players. Like Wiggins said, he was there when we only won 20 games. But even outside of that, I'm gonna even claim Shai from that regards to say he's homegrown because when the Thunder got Shai, he was a relatively unknown. Like you saw some potential and flashes because he was kind of buried amongst other stars out there in LA at the time, where you saw he had some flashes, but nobody expected Shai to be the MVP when they traded him. You just thought, oh, they're giving up Paul George and a bunch of picks because that's what the Thunder do. They get a bunch of picks, though, right?
When that trade went out, they were talking about Gallinari. They weren't even like they mentioned Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yes,
but Gallinari was like the big deal in the trade.
Yeah, he was the big piece. And the other draft picks though, right? And so I think that like it's like to me, if you are against building super teams, right? Because people say that the strategy is to get you a top 5 player and then build around them. It's like, all right, well, I think the biggest difference with the Thunder is that our top 5 player was groomed, right? He grew within the Thunder organization into a top 5 player. So it wasn't like he got there by trade. It wasn't like anything. And then not just that, all the other ancillary parts around him were also primarily homegrown. And so all of the other guys, the Carusos, the Harks, some of those guys were just like the cogs to kind of solidify the base. But I mean, when you're talking about Lou Dort, you're talking about Wiggins, you're talking about J Dub, Jason Williams, or Jalen Williams, and you've got all of these guys that were drafted there. It's just like, bro, like in theory, I mean, this is how it should be done, though, right? And I understand that with respect to free agency and everything like that. But for a small market team, free agents aren't beating down your door to win. So if you are the Thunders and if you're the Hornets, if you are like the Washington Wizards, right? The Pistons, this is, and even the Nuggets, you're gonna have to do it with homegrown guys, though, man. And so that's why I respect these kind of championships. And don't get me wrong, I don't take anything at all from, teams like LeBron going to Miami and doing whatever. But I think that to me, I certainly have a different level of appreciation of like the Celtics rings because they were one led by their 2 or 3 homegrown guys. I think that I can appreciate the Bucks championship for the same reason, right? And this one goes up there though. So when it comes to rating teams, I think that you could say, well, of the one championship ring teams, where do these rank? Though that's a conversation. I think it's still early to have that. Where does it fit? Is this an all-time great team or whatever? Because again, this is one ring in, but they're set up to be there, right? They ain't going nowhere no time soon, though, man.
No, and they got the infrastructure to beat the apron process too. But here's the thing: Sam Presti said it best during the championship after we won. He said, "We have a team and not like a person." You know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong. Clearly, Shea is the guy, but I'm saying there's times Shea will sit on the bench for a long period of time and there's no drop off, and we've talked about that at length. Even Isaiah Joe, right? Isaiah Joe's a guy that the 76ers cut and we picked him up. So it's just like, man, Sam Presti, like forget GM of the year, bro. That dude is the man. They was clowning him when he used to just collect picks. Like they used the meme of Thanos getting all the stones, the Infinity Stones. Like that boy was just snatching picks, and now look at us now, bro.
It's because I think that when you're that, because there are small market teams, and then there are really small market teams, like small market cities. Like I think that, like OKC, the Pacers are really small. I think that maybe even to some degree, like New Orleans is kind of the same. I think that I think that the big thing to me is that you got to be able to play the long game, right? And what's weird about it is that I mean they played the long game, and then the long game got current with the rise and ascend of Kevin Durant and that team and Russell and so you got that. But then to have to go ahead and go through a rebuild, right? And it started all over to say, all right, well, that was then. We got to just go ahead and hit the reset button. But our reset button is again going long game. It takes a lot of luck, but I think that it is a lot of scouting as well. But like I'm saying, to have your G League coach come out here and lead the team. You had to have seen something that even getting him that nobody else saw, though, bro. And he was with the team for some years, though. So it ain't like he was like some kind of new jack. So, like I said, I think that I just appreciate that the Thunder all around did it the right way. And if you can't appreciate that aspect of it, though, man, we just look at basketball differently, though.
Yeah, but and listen, at the end of the day, you're not gonna tell. Like, let's get into it. The Halliburton thing. Yes, Halliburton was injured. He knew the risk going into it. Nobody wanted to see them go down like that. Nobody. But at the same time, unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game. And when Chet went down, we had to still do what we had to do. We sat him for a year. Even our number 12 pick, Nikola Topic, hasn't even touched the floor yet because he was injured. So I just, to try to disparage the Thunder or say that their ring is incredible because their leader wasn't on the floor at the time. What happens if they would have won that game, right? Because they were still in the game until the third quarter, and then the turnovers just got the best of them. So yeah, listen, super proud, going broke over here buying all this OKC merch. And I won $100 on the game. So it's just like, bro.
And listen, when you talk about doing asterisks, well, you can go on forever. Because if you want to go by asterisks because of injuries, because of this, that, and the other, then you can X off a lot of teams that have won rings. Because then that means that, do you X off the Bucks because they got a Nets team that they went through that didn't have James Harden, right? Or didn't have so like, do you mark them off, right? Do you mark off like any guys? Like, how do you distinguish that? Is it that significant of an injury, right? Because if that's the case, though, you could have said, well, whoever won last year, you can put that on the asterisk because Chet didn't play with the Thunder last year. So who knows if he would have like, there's so many different ways that you would be able to do that, though, bro. I almost like compare that to when people try to say that LeBron winning in the bubble, was like an asterisk or like, come on, bro. Like, nah, we suited up. We play who the schedule says we gonna play, though, bro. I think for this one, I don't think that having Halliburton would have made a difference. I picked Thunder in 6, but out of respect to what it takes to get there, though, man, and we did it in 7. But I mean, you still think, though, man, it took them doing a game. It took a buzzer beater for them to win that one game in OKC. And so, provided that we don't take the foot off the gas on that, we would have clearly won that game, though, bro. So I think that I was very fair in presuming that we would have won in 6. But I also said that I see them winning the game at 7 for everything that you're describing now. We there. Parade right off the cuff. We out there, though, man. It
Yeah.
went exactly how I thought it would have went. Just the games were just differently, though.
Yeah.
Man.
All right, bro. Moving on. New music. The boy Offset and the girl Cardi both dropped music on the same day. What we talking about?
Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, though, bro. I've only listened to excerpts of Cardi and excerpts of the Offset, only because I dropped my own music, though, man, and I've been getting a lot of feedback on my own music. I can certainly appreciate that. And not to mention that this Friday, I'm dropping the official EP that this last week. Oh, listen, man, I'm not gonna lie to you, though, man. The only new music that I've been checking for has been the clips. But outside of my own, I mean, that's it. But I've been riding my own wave, though, man, because like I said, I've gotten a lot of good feedback from, excerpts from those songs, though, man. And like I said, different vibe, though, bro. So yeah, man. This Friday, Here for a Good Time is on all streaming platforms. So I have not listened to. Now, maybe I'm gonna defer for you to tell me if you've listened to those songs. What do you think about those?
I listened to both songs. I will say the Offset, the beat is nice. I think JID is on the record with him.
I did hear JID's part. I did hear JID's part. I heard all of this because I'm a big fan of his. And listen, I heard JID's part, and I always he snaps every single time.
Yeah.
He's probably one of my favorite rappers.
The song is cool. I don't know that it's gonna be like a smash. Like it's
Sure.
I can say it's a hit. It'll work, but I don't know that it's not. It ain't WAP. You know what I'm saying? But it's dope. The beat is. I love the beat. The Cardi, it sounds like a rinse and repeat song. Like the beat favors something else. I want to say When It's Up, I think it sounds similar to that. I'm not sure. I got to listen to the beat again, but I like the song. It's not a WAP, but I don't think it's a flop either. It will work in the club. It's weird because when the last time I don't want to say this, but when we last heard Nicki's album, right, we were like, I don't hear that one. You know what I'm saying? when I hear this, when I hear Cardi's song, I don't, like I said, I don't think it's a smash, but I think it's a hit. I think it's gonna work. The song is called Outside, and you just with it being the summer, you can just see how that could take off.
If you know what it is, I think that it feels like the Cardi song. I heard it, it does feel the song that it seems it makes me compare it to is oddly enough the song Jealousy with Offset. And it but only Cardi's part. Like if you took Offset off the song, then this kind of gives me the vibe of that one. Here's the thing I think that though, man. I do think that there is listen, there is a certain kind of subject matter that I think that she could very easily do, right? I think that that's something that a lot of female rappers these days stick to that. Like Lotto's gonna stay in a certain bag of range of topics, right? I think that to some degree, Glorilla will as well. I think the only difference to me, to be honest with you, bro, is that I just think that Glorilla has been picking better beats, though, bro. Like whoever is selecting Glorilla beats and the songs that go out as singles really got it down packed. Like whoever is A&R or EP and whatever her moves are, I think that she hasn't missed. There are some songs you might be like, I don't like it as much as this other song, but I think that Glorilla has not missed yet on singles that she's put out. And I think that that's where it's a little different because Cardi can say what she's going to say. And I expect for her to say kind of the same things. But a lot of it is going to be based off of beat selection, though, bro. And I think that that's even where I think that Glorilla does that even better than Megan, though, man. She's going to say kind of what I expect her to say. But just the beats, though, bro. All of her beats been banging.
Glorilla just won the gospel award at the BET Awards. Just dropped a video with Kurt Franklin. Like he said, she doing her thing. But you brought up
she hasn't missed, bro.
You brought up the clips, and they're kind of in the news right now because K Dot's verse leaked, and so people are kind of mixed feelings about that. One, because the song was played at a private event and somebody leaked it out, so that's just trash to begin with.
I'm gonna be honest. I think that they played it and they expected it to be leaked, and I think that it's part of the welcome package for the album. I don't think that that was accidental, though. I think it was a leak, but I think that it was an intentional leak.
I guess I don't know. I'm kind of, like I said, I'm kind of on the boat of let it drop when it drops. Like it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just feel like that didn't need to leak because you knew when the song did drop with Kendrick's verse, people were gonna be trying to listen to it, just like people were trying to flock to the leak.
Yeah, listen, I think that this is the thing I think that is the one thing I think that's very dope about what the clips are doing, right? Is that for one, I do like Pusha T, who doesn't really get on a lot of interviews. No Malice, who doesn't get on a lot of interviews. He's talking now, and it's very direct when people are asking the question. So I can appreciate that he's not withholding certain subjects. So when people are asking them about Kanye, he's giving them everything about the Kanye. He recently was interviewed and he was talking about things that he didn't particularly like about Kanye was like his recording process. And Pusha's like, listen, I record from 9 to 5. I'm not used to doing after hours, 3 a.m. kind of things. So there was this interview where he was like, he talked about how he was in Hawaii with Kanye recording and had to leave like the next day because he was like, I just wasn't feeling the vibe. But I think that the one thing that was also interesting to me is that he was like, he said this is the thing I think is crazy. He said this man know, right, that me and Drake had this beef. So I'm in the studio with him one day, and then now he's in the studio with Drake the very next day. And listen, I respect someone who has a code and someone who has a principle to say, listen, don't play with me if you're going to play both sides. So I'm going to decide for you, since you like to play both sides, I'm going to cut myself off and remove myself to now it's not a one-sided thing, right? I don't got to feel that way because I'm cutting that part off. But I like that for someone who is usually very private that he is talking in these interviews though. And that's why I think that because there's been a press kind of tour on this particular album, the timing when you say, well, they wanted to get off of Def Jam because of this verse, and that was last week. Now to kind of keep the buzz still going, here's this leak of the verse, and then they're still going to have other interviews though. So I think it was part of the package though, bro.
Thought it was part of the rollout, huh?
And part of the rollout, and that was at a private listening party for the album. And I think that just with all things considered, I think that you gotta expect that someone's gonna leak it. And so the fact that it was just that particular part after they just had that conversation, that's it. Now listen, shout out to the homeboy Philosophical because I had a conversation with him earlier today, and he's kind of doing, he does this rap reviews of albums and songs, and I think that he's very interested in that release in particular. I am myself, right? And I think that he's probably going to do like a panel review of it, though. That I probably do something with him on. But listen, like I told him, I fully expect for this particular Clips album. I'm expecting that if we had the old source rating and the old double XL rating, I'm expecting the Five Mike album from it. I'm expecting this to be a classic, flawless album. The only concern that I have is will it have like those singles, right? Will it have the radio friendly songs? Because a lot of times when you get on that rapidy rap, and a lot of people love that, I think that to me, when you had them Five Mike albums, they also have radio joints on them, club joints though, and their Lord willing had those on there though, man. So uh, I'm expecting Five Mics though, brother. The Clips were my favorite rap group outside of Outkast, and when they separated, but then also they separated, and Pusha T doesn't put out a lot of content, and then No Malice, fell back for a minute, put out something, but they don't put out frequently enough to where it's why I think that they're not as recognized from a high level of hip hop. But I think that it's why I also think they got to be sitting on some fire though, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Five Mike album. I'm calling it. I'm gonna be crushed if it ain't. But I think that yeah. It's gonna be one of them ones. So I'm excited for it though.
Last topic. The boy Diddy, the case. I guess they're looking to try to wrap up by the end of this week. And the judge wants them to have a verdict. He don't want them to come back after the 4th. So maybe starting having closing arguments sometime next week, and beginning of the week, and deliberating from there. What you thinking?
Hey, listen, man. I think that my opinion hasn't changed very much though, bro. Like respectfully to Cassie and anybody who's a victim, right, of what actually happened. We didn't see the actual freak off tapes, which I'm very surprised that hasn't been leaked, right? But with respect to the victims, I haven't seen anything at all that has been presented to make me believe this man was criminal. Like I saw the guns. I get that that's not illegal to have guns. Maybe the name of who the guns were registered. I don't see the monster like I think he may be or was described to be. If that makes sense.
I don't think that they did a good enough job making that the priority. Like it feels like I think all people are getting out of this right now is that Diddy was a freak, and that was it. But you had that same thought process once before he even went to trial.
Yeah.
Like
yes, you didn't know. So this didn't tell you. This man gave you some details, but it didn't make him seem like you knew he was a freak. But it didn't make me think, oh, that was over my head. Like, no, I think everything is on par. It's just the baby oil was like their thing, and I guess, but
now, it
didn't.
They still getting the jokes off though. They still getting the jokes off about some of the freaky stuff he doing. But at the same time, again, we talked about this before the trial started. Could you see Diddy doing music with people again, or would people want to work with Diddy again? I don't see nobody that wouldn't.
I listen. I'm gonna keep it a stat because I was gonna ask you that, right? I personally wouldn't,
You
right?
wouldn't, but I'm
Personally, I
saying
wouldn't.
other
But in
artists.
general, I
No,
don't. I don't.
listen,
I don't
because
see why. I don't see why Rick Ross would separate himself from Diddy. I don't see why. What's my boy? French Montana. All the people that work with him very intimately. Like this to me hasn't shown me enough to where you would now. Don't get me wrong. The Cassie video showed me enough, but people have done worse, and I think that's why I'm with you. I think people still will.
bro, the way that Young Berg was still going hard on saying that boy free Diddy, that boy, he's a top producer. I'm telling you, bro, people will work with him. I said that from the beginning.
It definitely just makes me think, bro. Like if you're going to convict them for beating Cassie, do that though, right?
That's not what he's on trial for.
But that's not what he's on trial for, and that is my problem, though, bro. It's like, yeah, I understand that he would do all of the things that they say, but you're basically trying to convince me. Now, I'm not saying convince me, but I'm saying if I was a juror,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
that this man is a freak. All
Kingpin.
you told me he liked to do nasty stuff behind
Right,
closed doors with a girl, and that he put his hands on his girl, right? And I'm gonna be honest, and all of the other things to me don't outside of him being a wife beater, it doesn't paint the criminal picture to me. If you want to paint him as this domestic abuser, I get it, but that's not what they're doing. And so, based off of that, it hasn't changed my opinion at all. But it does further make me confer or agree with you that I think people will still work on it. I don't know necessarily that brands would align themselves with him so that publicly they'd be seen with him. But in terms of I think that you can be a producer and never show your face. I think that people would. Um, do you want to be associated with somebody who put the hands on a girl like that? Like I said, there are people who've done worse, and people are still thriving after doing worse.
bro. People are still trying to align themselves with Tory, and Tory was convicted of shooting at Megan.
See, I think that people still feel some kind of way about
They
that.
do, but people feel some type of way about Diddy. Here's the thing: being a freak isn't a crime. It might not be my
Yeah.
cup of tea, but it ain't my. That's just my thing. Is I don't have to sleep with you or be involved in anything that you doing to do music with you.
I get that. I get that. But then it's just like, what if somebody didn't want to associate with you based off of your affiliation or association with him?
I understand. We're saying the
If
same
you
thing,
had yeah, I get what you're saying. But if you had, listen, Ace Kennedy, if that man said, Ace, I produced this record with so and so, and it's the hit you've been looking for, bro. I ain't asking you to come to one of my free calls. I'm just saying I want to work with you as an artist because I like what you do, though, bro. Your music wise, I like what you do. No Diddy. And he told you no Diddy. Are you hopping in the studio with Diddy to get this hit record, bro?
uh, I don't know that because I don't know how. Like my thing is, I'd have to talk to Cassie on how she feels. Right? I'm a person who is a forgiving person. And my thing is that what has Diddy done since then? Have there been any other incidents of him beating women since then? You know what I'm saying? Did he apologize? Like there's so many questions. So I'm not just gonna often say no, but at the same time,
But you don't know Cassie though. So why would
no,
her opinion matter? What would her
it's the
what
same.
would
Okay,
her
this is the same. There we go. It hit me. It's the same thing like working with Chris Brown. Do I work with Chris Brown anymore because of the Rihanna video?
if Rihanna's forgiving him,
That's what
I'm
that's what
inclined to
I'm
I
saying.
see what you mean.
That's
But
exactly what
I
I'm saying.
don't so you're saying that if Cassie has because apparently she has it if she filed a lawsuit for him and it's going there. But if she said, y'all listen, I didn't forgive this man and I moved on. But she says I forgive him. It in general, it's all forgiven then.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. I get it. I don't know, Cassie. I can't answer the question, but I'm just saying it's not a straight yes or no for me because there are details that are important. Because I can't be mad at somebody who I'm not even the one that it happened to. I can be appalled by what you did, but again, I am a forgiving person. So if the person who was offended forgives you, then who am I to still be holding a grudge like that? Especially if there's not now a history of you continually doing that with other people. And again, we understand.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the Chris Brown to me is probably where I draw more along the lines of the exception. And here's why I think that Chris Brown is the exception and not the norm. For one, he was 19 years old, right? But for two, I just believe, and I don't want to victim bash, but if she's forgiven him, because I think at one point, well after that,
They were
there
together
was a
again.
rumor they were together again, right? But I think that once you've gone there, right? When you say no, we're back, right? And think, don't get me wrong, mentally, people can be here, there, whatever. But I think, bro, that to me, if Chris Brown had put his hands on, if he had a history of it, I can't, because to me, putting your hands on women, that's one of those things to me where I'm like, I can't. When you say no, you have a history that you are a wife beater, right? I think that no, that's just what you do, and I can't rock with that personally.
But here's the thing, Cassie went back.
Cassie did go back, and apparently several times.
Several times. She not only went back, she was again, and we don't have to rehash her testimony, but
Sure.
there's text messages and everything of her setting up the freak offs and like, yo, why are you still looking for other people? And I'm right here. Again, we understand that can all be a part of the mental aspect of it. All I'm saying is,
Sure.
if we're holding the same things to be true for Chris Brown, then you got to do it for Diddy. Either way, you got to.
I don't know, man. I think the reason why I look at that different, though, man, is that, like I said, I personally have a problem with guys that have histories of putting their hands on women.
I 100% do too.
Yeah, and so for me, it's like it's if it happens a one-time thing, and you tell me, hey, these are all the details, and I said, you know what? That might make sense to me, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like because it's a very exception, and not to ever excuse it. But I just think that when you have had a history, to me, it's like you having a history of even if it's one woman that you've been beating for a while, like that's enough for me to be like, nah, bro, I don't right. And my thing is that the history of beating on women, that's no exception to me, though, bro. I would never be friends with nobody who would. Don't introduce me to somebody who has a history of beating women. I don't want to be nowhere near any guy who that's what you do. Hey, man, I get mad sometimes and have to boop, 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 put the beats on it. Like, nah, bro, nah, that's not, I don't want to associate with nobody like that.
No, I get that. I mean, at the end of the day, my sister's ex-husband still owe me 5 minutes, bro. So, you know what I'm saying? I totally understand what you said. So, yeah.
Nah, man. Nah, I just like I said, nah, it ain't. Don't line me up with nobody like that, though. But I don't. And listen, I don't, because if you introduce me to somebody that put their hands on a chick all the time, or that's what they do, then that almost makes me put in question your character. Why would you introduce me to somebody like that? How you know somebody like that? How you good with somebody where, nah, that's all they, yeah, man, him and his old lady get into it. They always getting into physical. Like, nah, bro. Nah, get out my face, bro.
What if she's whooping him sometimes?
It don't matter, bro.
It
don't matter. It don't matter. It don't matter, bro. I'm talking about literally, it does not matter to me. Like I said, it's no exception. When you have a history, if you have a history, bro, of putting them paws on your girl, any girl, like even if you just even if they're not your girl, if you could tell me in your lifetime you've had to fight 2 women, 3 women, Like that. Hell no, bro.
What if he
Like,
JJ?
nah. It's unless they punching you like JJ's punching you. Unless, listen, bro. I love JJ, but if she punched me the way I saw her punch that girl, JJ would have to get the beats, bro. And listen, and I would have to give JJ the beats only because I know what she's capable of, bro. Yeah. So, but listen, man. Now, if you tell me, if this is somebody told me, yeah, man, you know, I used to date JJ, you know, we got into it. She hit me with a stiff one, so my reaction was to throw them things. We got into it. That happened. That's a one-time thing. That's a Chris Brown scenario that I'm gonna give you the one-time pass for that one person. And maybe there are just a bunch of JJs out there, right? That just they females, but they hit like grown men. I get it. That might be the case. So there's but I'm talking about when you say you have a history of it, though, then that's no exception to that, though.
Nah, I get that. Well, look, man, we are the Slash Brothers from ATL to OKC, the NBA champions. We are out this thing. We'll see y'all next Tuesday, same time, same channel, and we out.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Slash Brothers Podcast, the greatest podcast of all time. The Slash Brothers Podcast, the greatest podcast.
Can you dig it,
of all time.
sucker?